Folks, the meeting will come to order. We're missing Marty.
And Mike.
Oh, and Mike. He's on his way. Folks, let's get the meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. We got Marty now. Mike should be right behind him because I talked to him on the way down. I welcome you all to the March meeting. First things first, can you hear me in the front row? Can you hear me in the back row? If not, I'll adjust. Am I too loud?
Are you talking?
Okay, you can hear me okay? I don't have the loudest voice, but I realize this room is not the best. I'm Pam Dugan. I'm starting my 6th year on the board, and I'll be chairing the meetings. Want to thank John for his service as outgoing chair.
I want to thank you as incoming.
Spring is springing, I think so. The boats are on the water, the kayaks were out, the ice is gone, so hope is with us. Since the last meeting, I've spent some time meeting one-on-one with your board members. You've got a great group here. I had to email with Sue, sorry, but that was my fault. I messed up the schedule. There's Michael Blackwell.
All right, Mike.
That's all right. So we've had some chats about all things Lake Lemon, and I've learned some things, and we're ready to move forward on this new year. With that, I'd like to tell you that Adam has successfully moved his, well, not his stuff, it's in the storage bin, but we'll talk about that later, and has taken over the official lake manager's position. Also want to publicly thank you, James, for being a critical piece in this transition for him.
Thanks.
As you guys are trying to make it your own.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, with that, your board, I want to introduce 2 new members. Wait, oh, there you are. I got you switched. Michael Blackwell on my right,
Hi.
your left, from
I'm sorry, I'm late. I just
District
got off work.
7. It's all right.
Judge pulled me back in her chambers.
He is taking Tina's place. Tina is here. Thanks for coming back. I can't imagine. And then Marty Mann, who is returning to the board from District 3. And we're happy to have you back. With that, only thing I would ask is cell phones be on vibrate or off or left in your car. And we will move toward the approval of the board meeting minutes for February 4th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Mm-hmm. Any questions, additions, deletions, corrections?
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Thanks,
I'll
Lance.
second that.
Thank you, John. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the February 4th annual board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. We approve the minutes, they will be filed. With that, I turn it over to our faithful treasurer.
I'll pass down the highlights basically for the board. Again, good evening, everybody. As you know, I'm Lance Everly, current treasurer of the board. Basically, in the packets, we do have 2 months worth of financial statements, obviously because we had the annual meeting, and therefore we didn't have the January statements last month. But you're not missing a whole lot. Not a whole lot goes on in the lake in January. I think we made a, whopping $790 in revenues during the month of January. Things are picking up a little bit now in February as we are starting to see some income come in terms of subleases and some of the fee structures, and we also are starting to get some registrations for fishing tournaments, which I believe we have our first coming up this weekend, if you can believe it or not. So spring is definitely in the air. In terms of the overall expenses, everything's pretty much status quo in terms of the salaries and such. Not a whole lot going on in terms of some of the dredging and things of that nature, so the wages are down. We did have a little bit of an uptick in the administrative wages in February, but that was planned because we just had the transition with Bob and with Adam coming on board, so we had a little bit of an overlap there. The other real major expense that comes up, of course, in January is the insurance renewal came in, so that is the big expense that you see there. And basically as projected, we're basically running at a little bit in the red right now at a loss until the season picks up and the tax revenues come in. Balance sheet wise, financially, we're looking pretty good. Overall in the liquid checking and savings, we have about $125,000 in our accounts right now. General fund CDs, we have about 216,000, and then of course the cumulative maintenance fund is up to about 76,000, as we did contribute another $5,000 at the end of the year, which is typically what we do to kind of build up the rainy day fund. Outside of that, no liabilities to speak of, which is a good feeling from an accounting standpoint, and no real major asset changes or purchases over the course of the last several months. So be open to any questions if we have any. Okay. Yeah, and then also I think you do have the notice of claims for both January and February in front of you, and I just want to check to see if there's any questions on any of those claims as presented. And if not, if I could get a motion for approval of both.
I move.
I'll second. You're going to ask with a vote?
It has been,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the vouchers for the month of January and February. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Filed for
I have the allowance of vouchers down here, so I'll go ahead and
Yeah,
send
pass
those
it
down
out.
for people to sign.
Yeah,
There's
thanks,
two of
Adam.
them.
The only other item I have for discussion today is we do have a certificate of deposit that's coming up on the 23rd for $100,000, but I think we just want to let that go and actually go into the checking account, as we're going to use some of those funds to purchase the dredging equipment per the recommendation of the dredging study group. So if there are any questions on that.
Did you say 400,000?
No, that's 100,000, Sue.
100,000?
Yes. Thank you.
I thought you said 4.
Oh, he said, I think he said 100,000.
Yeah.
Like 400,000.
Any other questions or comments? And that is my report.
Thank you, Lance. The next business in order is the dredging study group update. Tina, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tina, still chair of the dredging study group. We had a meeting last week, actually on February 28th. We had a lot to discuss. We went over a lot of items. One of the things that the board had asked us to look at was some things at the barge operations for 2015. So we have some things for that. But we also had a visit to our barge builder that's down in Madison, so we have some information about that. We weren't going to be able to build the type of barge that we had originally thought we could build, which was, we were thinking maybe a diesel engine under that, and be able to build something that was going to be pretty cool. But the cost of that was going to be pretty cool as well. So we kind of scratched that idea. But we're going to build basically just the same type of barge that we have on there, only smaller. We got some rough estimates on that, and we'll be hearing about those a little bit later in another meeting. But systems and the way it works, it was just way too expensive to do it the way they originally thought with the diesel motors. It would be cleaner, it would move faster, it would move better, but it was it's just going to be too costly. So the decision was probably to pursue a regular barge to be operated by 2 outboard motors. The cost is much less. Put an excavator on that with the hull on that and everything, and it's just going to be a better way to do it, and it stay within and probably lower than our original budget that we had originally asked for. So that was good news.
Is there an estimate of cubic yards that it'll hold?
We think
40 to 50.
about 50 cubic yards.
50 would be kind of maxed
Yeah.
out, but 40 definitely.
Yeah, our bucket now is 3 cubic yards, and the excavator that we'll be buying will be about a cubic yard. So you can see kind of the difference in there. But it'll still be able to move, pretty quickly. We think it'll get the job done.
Question.
Yes.
When you say 2 engines, you mean you're going to have engines pushing the barge on the barge, or you
It'd be 2 outboard motors.
on the barge?
Yes.
Not another push boat or anything?
No, this doesn't need another push boat. This will be small enough that it'll be able to operate with 2 of your outboard motors, which we originally thought we could do 1 big diesel motor like they do in the big speedboats.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be able to save money with fuel and this in the cost, and we wouldn't save some money with some maintenance fees and things like that, but it was, again, it was just too costly to try to do something at that time. So, you know, this was this method works. I mean, these barges are all over the place, you know, every lake uses them. We were just, you know, trying to think above the box. But, you know, our cost is definitely driving that.
I can chime in on that real quick.
Yeah.
When we went down to Madison, we were originally planning on building a self-propelled barge with a diesel engine in it and the steering column all built on. We looked at that, and it was about $40,000 alone for the motor, and the rigging for the motor ultimately over $200,000 is what we're looking at for a barge. That would be self-propelled. So ultimately came to the decision that a 20 by 40 foot barge would be ideal. We'll be mounting 2 outboard motors on the back sides, and we'll hold about 50 cubic yards, and that reduced our costs by over $100,000 by going on that. So,
And we're still doing the same thing.
Right.
Thank you for that. So our first recommendation, in order to do this, we have to start off with an excavator, as you've heard in the conversations before. So our first recommendation to the board is to, we have a general fund CD renewing for $100,000. We'd like the board to consider putting that amount into the checking account for the purchase of an excavator for the small barge of operation, and any remaining funds that can be used for the purchase of the barge and motor or a loan down payment. In other words, we don't estimate that the excavator is going to be $100,000. In fact, we'll get into that. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait and go through all the rest of this?
you guys want? It's fine.
You guys want to
with me.
look at the excavator now while we're talking about it, or it's up to you guys?
Whatever you feel is most clear.
Why don't we go ahead and go ahead and look at the excavator bids at this time? You know, if we're going to go ahead and recommend that $100,000 be put in there, and that way you can kind of see what we're looking at.
Did you
So
already send out the bids for the excavator?
we have some bids here.
Today we're going to be seeking approval to send out the invitation to bid. So if this is approved, we will have to put it in the newspaper twice with a week in between and advertise out. So essentially we started off with what we used for the last dredging purpose, and we modified it just for the purchase of the excavator.
So the bid process, are you using what Angela Parker has recommended?
Yes.
Following that
Yes.
process?
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
And
And,
the boys have done great homework on this. You've got some letters in your packet that
it's
I
already
really
been
want to commend them
drafted.
for taking care of this in the right way.
And the invitation to bid has been reviewed by Angela, and it has her blessing. So if we're good here, we're okay to move on it. The schedule that we have down is an invitation to bids issued. If approved tonight, we'll call the newspapers and put them in tomorrow. We have to give the newspapers at least a week notice. We have to advertise twice with a week apart. So the due date for the bids, assuming they go in tomorrow, is April 14th, which will be the day before the next board meeting. At that April 15th board meeting, we would open up the bids. After we open the bids, we'll have to evaluate the equipment. We need at least 2 weeks for that, so we can get Levi and Lee Keen, who is our hired diesel mechanic, to go out and check out the different respective pieces of equipment, see what we like the best, and they'll come back with a proposal to the board of what we should purchase. After that, we'll award the contract. As of here, we have it on May 20th at that board meeting to award the contract for the excavator. Once we know what excavator we'll be getting, then we will put together the bid packet for the barge itself. But we need to know what the weight of the excavator is so we can build the barge around that, and so it can hold that size excavator. So the invitation to bid, everybody has in their board packet, and it was mailed out online. The specifications that we were looking for, it's going to be a smaller excavator than we currently have due to the size of the barge. We're looking for an excavator under 28,000 pounds with a cubic yard bucket. So that'll fit on the barge fine, and we'll also be able to use that for disposal site prep, debris removal. We're going to get one that has a claw on it so we can help out with debris removal. We're looking for a used excavator no older than 2005. We don't want to purchase new. Not to have more than 4,000 hours. We do have air conditioning on there for the comfort of our dredge operator and the heat of the system. Ultimately, the bid will include the excavator, quick hydraulic coupler so we can change out buckets and spin them around for scooping and digging. It'll come with 2 buckets, one with teeth and pins for digging, another smooth pan bucket for once we have to empty everything out. And also, we'd like it to contain a mechanical or hydraulic thumb attachment. And this is all in the bid packet, so that is what we'll be seeking. We're thinking it's going to cost about $70,000 to $80,000 for the rig that we want, for the excavator and attachment. And so if we decide to put the CD into our checking account, we'll have enough money there to purchase the excavator and potentially some left over towards the barge. So that is where we were at with
I have a question on the specs. I was surprised that the reach wasn't in the specs. I always thought excavators had that as a primary determinant.
I think
What is the
we'll
reach
be,
that you're?
I think we'll be okay on reach, even if
That,
that's,
that's as important as anything else.
Yeah.
The reach is as important as anything.
Anyway, I don't know what the reach ought to be. It seemed to me like it might be in this.
well,
we
I'm
discussed.
thinking probably with a standard excavator, you know, I'm no expert, but I would think we'd be able to reach, you know, down to where we're digging with a, you know, standard
Maybe
size.
that's worth
I don't
asking
think we
Mike
need a
Lane.
long reach excavator.
And Lee Keen never mentioned that when we were going through it, so I wasn't positive a given size excavator across the brands would have a similar reach.
Levi might know that.
Yeah,
Lance was-
clarify, yeah.
I think that should be clarified in the bid package.
Absolutely.
All right.
Levi
Well, I
was
guess
supposed to come tonight.
with approval of the packet, will you give staff the authority to add the certain size reach
Yeah.
if necessary?
That
So that we
sounds-
can kind
It's a good
of
question.
do it post facto?
All right.
Vincent?
Necessarily long reach might prohibit in like a tight area when you're trying to, because if we're talking about a smaller barge, trying to get in tighter
Mhm.
spots, you have a longer arm, it's harder to, so that might be Levi's
You may prefer
call.
something shorter, yeah,
Right.
maybe easier to dig and
For
scoop and
flexibility.
maneuver, so.
Clarify, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think this was also based on like a 20-foot radius, wasn't it? Kind of what this was an original, for some reason, I have this written down, and tell me if I'm wrong, but we talked about this a couple of months ago, and Levi was there, and we talked about a 20-foot, area that the barge can go down and it can, dig out. And I was thinking that 8 foot was,
But these arms are articulated so they go like this.
yeah.
So you don't have to have it all the way out when you're trying to turn
Just
around.
come in and go, yeah.
So I think that's too short is not a problem. Or too long is not a problem.
Probably
Barb?
let Lee King give us the advice on that, but so at this time, I guess we'd like.
Barb
oh,
has a
sorry.
comment, question?
So roughly, what is the barge gonna cost then? If the excavator is gonna be between $70,000 and $80,000,
We don't, we have some rough estimates, but it's still gonna be under, but I don't know.
Roughly, the barge will be around $40,000 to $50,000
barge
to be
40 to
built,
50?
and then the motors we're thinking are going to be between $12,000 to $15,000 a piece, so under $100,000. Probably $80,000 to $100,000, I would think, would be the entire barge and motors.
So at this time, the dredging study group would like the board to consider, make a motion to approve $100,000 go into that checking account, and that we approve the bid process to begin for the excavator.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we put that $100,000 into the checking account for the purpose of the small barge.
Excavator.
I'm sorry, excavator.
We've kind of already had that motion, have we not?
Yeah.
Or we
Actually, we kind of have.
Well,
So this
but,
is-
we never had an
we-
official motion, I guess.
Actually, to add to that is to approve the packet that
Specs.
has specs, and to open those on April the
To open the bids.
15th.
Going to bundle those together
Yes.
and kind of, we're scooting one ahead.
Doing this in
So
reverse, don't you normally go with the barge and then the other equipment? I
Well, the bar-
don't remember when we bought the first barge, that we bought the excavator first and then the engines and the whatever.
The
We
barge
bought
builder that we spoke to recommended that we needed the excavator to be able to determine the weight and everything that so that it's better to do the dimensions of the barge.
And originally it was purchased as one
Unit.
yeah, it was all together. It was the barge, the excavator, and everything. So all had been built already. So that barge is already spec'd out for that size excavator. But since we're not purchasing everything in one buy and we're piecing it together, we'll have to know what size excavator we're going to have and then build a barge around that once we know the weight of it.
So you restate the motion that you're seeking, so we're absolutely clear.
I would like the board to consider the DSG's recommendation to move the general fund CD that is due for $100,000 into the checking account, and to also approve the bid package opening for the excavator. So it is two recommendations, I guess.
And do we want to add that staff has the ability to
Yes.
add reach if necessary?
I believe that would be prudent.
To approve, yeah.
Okay. Everybody clear? I have a motion.
You have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Okay. Is there a discussion?
I just wanted to remember that at the August meeting, which we had in the Riddle Point Park, somebody got up and advised us not to do a barge with outboard motors because they were very ineffective.
I remember that too. I think they have tried to do their due diligence on this. It's a matter of dollars, I think, at the outset.
It's about money.
Well, you spend $100,000 for something that doesn't do the job, you haven't done any good for anybody.
I understand. I don't disagree.
So
Well, for the
is-
price that they came back for that one motor, we could replace those outboard motors 7 times.
It's a catch-22 on, which way you go. You're going to get more longevity out of the diesel, but you're going to spend more money. The outboards, may not last as long, but you're going to initially spend a lot less. So
What size outboards are we talking about?
probably 150 to 200s. We've got a preliminary quote from Art at All About Boats. With a government discount, we're looking at about 10 to 11,000 for a 150. So,
4-stroke.
which is about $6,000 off what you guys would pay, or I would pay.
Fuel-injected 4-stroke outboards are very dependable these days.
And there's
They're
also,
pretty solid.
when we go with outboards, you can add extra filtration systems into the water intake, and a lot of the newer outboards also have flush valves where you can actually hook a hose up and flush your lower unit system. So we've got ideas about, we've got a water pump available at the office. We talked about putting a big water tote on the back of the barge and filling it up with water, and when the push boat operator is kind of not doing anything and Levi's digging, have him flush that system every time you go in and out. So.
And with the outboards, we'll be able to add hydraulic plates, lifting plates, so we can raise and lower the motors. So when we get into areas that are very shallow and lots of sediment, we'll have jack plates to be able to raise the motors up to keep them out of the sediment.
I also
Big
noticed
trim up
on
as well.
Yamaha's website, I didn't look at Mercury's or anything like that, but on Yamaha's website, if it's for government use, it automatically comes with a 3-year warranty.
There you go.
Are
Barb?
these motors new?
Oh, yeah, they'll be brand new.
Okay. Is there
But we're
further,
not talking about the motors tonight.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
asking, I mean,
further discussion? Questions? It has been moved and seconded that we approve the $100,000 into the checking account for purposes of the excavator, and in addition to allow staff to check in with Levi on the reach. Also to accept the invitation to bid packets.
To be open on April
To
15th.
be open on April 15th. Thank you, Michael. Details. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Tina. Yes,
may I
Barb?
ask one other question?
Sure.
Does that mean then the general fund, what is the balance in the general fund then? If that's taken out, correct, it's 100,000 CD. Is there still money in the general fund?
Yeah, there will still be money there. We're only taking about,
Left in there.
That's what I wanted to know.
yeah, there's about 216,000 in general fund CDs right now. So it'd be cutting in half.
Yeah.
And that would make our checking account over 200,000.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing that the board of directors had asked the dredging study group to look into was maybe assist in barge priorities for 2015. As you know, this is the month that the board decides where the barge will start digging. this year. We brought a projector so it would kind of be easier to see. This is kind of some of our maps that we just had done. In each area, you've got like the whole map, and then you've got like each area, I didn't think today, will be ID'd, each area will show like the depth and everything of every
That's the most
priority
recent
service zone. There we go. Couldn't get it out there.
This is from the most recent bathymetry study that we did, a set of removable maps. And what they went ahead and did is for each of our subcategories or the service zones, they made additional smaller maps. And they've actually highlighted the areas and estimated the amount of sediment in those areas so we can help base calculations off. So we figure we bring those when we're talking about specific areas, we can blow them up and we get that visual perspective of what we're talking about and where we're looking at.
The depth of the water is indicated by those numbers?
Yes, the 1, 2, 4, those ISO marks will be the depth of the water.
There's the 1, the 2, the 4.
And that's, the yellow line is where the red dot is up on the smaller.
Yes,
Correct.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Yes. I almost skipped a thing here on the purchase of the excavator. The board, or the group would also like the board to consider possibly to speed up the barge construction of adding a special board meeting for the purchase of the excavator if we get it all put together and we get our bids. We'd like the board maybe to consider maybe a special meeting to meet to be able to get this done a little, speed up the process a bit. You don't have to vote on that or anything.
Right.
This is something for you to
Duly
consider.
noted.
Okay. So we came up with 5 potential areas of the LLCD dredging for 2015. And there are no particular order. We're not saying any order at all. This is for the board to decide. We would like to consider, the board to consider that when the small barge does get here, that we would recommend that that be put to use to make sure that it's good working order. So in your service zones, there is an area for that is indicated that you can use that to get it going. But I believe we're going to start off with, this is service zone 112 or 111. This is off of John Young Road. It's in District 1. This is one of the areas that we would like the board to consider.
Are you considering dredging only the green areas on these maps?
Yes.
Well, most of that service area is kind of, service zone 112 and 111, I feel like we'd just be doing kind of what's right in
Where is
between
it on the
them.
map?
It's up here. Up in the corner. See it up there in the corner?
No. Is that the area that's just west of Cemetery Island?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Right on
So
the
you're going to do the
shore.
shore, but you're not going to worry about the fact that the water's 3 feet deep, 60 feet
It's
down?
on
We're getting there.
It's
We're
on
getting
there.
there.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not
a later
complete.
option. But
We're
pretty
not putting
much,
them in order.
go to 112.
That's
Point out
not
some
okay.
landmarks there.
Voting
Just
on
showing
these
you
without
five
priorities is kind of dumb.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah,
showing you
me.
some priority levels, and you guys, that's your job to discuss, what's first.
We're not gonna, a lot of these people up here, well, we don't really have houses here, so we start maybe somewhere in here. It's a little bit shallow. I assume we probably start digging right in this area, probably move back around, maybe.
That's
a
south
little
of
bit
John Young
more.
Road? Yes.
Nope.
This is, this is service zone 111 and 112.
That's correct.
So when you see this, we won't be digging the entire thing, but it's part of 112, and maybe into 111. It gets pretty deep right in here, so I don't think we'd have to go too far into 111, but it would include 111.
North of John Young Road is Bloomington area anyhow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's Bloomington area and there's no houses, we're not gonna.
Yeah, we don't do that.
So this is kind of beside, where you're coming up on the sandbar, kind of around in that area.
Yeah.
Off of John, okay.
Yeah, your boating safety area, that shallow's kind of right up here.
Okay.
Is that the code?
Okay.
It's not Icebox, but it's the code that I think
It's
that's.
not
next one around.
Where's
Next
that?
one
Icebox
around.
is
What
down,
icebox
right
we down
here.
here?
Yeah, Icebox is down in the corner.
Yeah, below there.
So another, so we have 111, 112, and that's in District 1. 114 is another suggestion. This is just east of Spillway. It's the first priority in sub-area 2.
Here, we'd probably just come in right here, or maybe exit in here. Just do this area right here.
Tina, is this one that's been on the list for?
Yeah, this is their first, they haven't had any digging there at all, so this is their first one in sub-area 2.
1, 11, and 12 has been priority, top priority in District 1 for quite a while.
Years.
Yes. Years and years.
So those are the areas that we tried to come up with. So any questions about this area of the location? And, we could go back when you guys are looking at these, we can absolutely go back and look at the maps again so you can have a better idea. We're just hoping that this helps with the visual part of it.
It really does.
Sub-area, Service Zone 131, that's in Sub-area 4. This is the maintenance line on the west side of Point Avalon. This has been done before, but it is filling in again. And you start to think, one of the things that we talk about is maintenance. And, if we're going there and do this work and then it, starts filling in again, then we're back in trouble again. It didn't do any good. And even though we haven't dug in other areas, we still got to take care of what we do. So you'll be hearing more about our 5 and 10-year plan. We've got a lot of input. We've got a lot to look at. We didn't want to just put something together. So we're planning on June or July, I think July.
Yes.
We'll have a presentation at the shelter house for everyone and try to get as many people there as we can.
Thank you.
And we'll have this available and we'll be able to go over some more in-depth ideas of what we're looking at for the priority areas for the whole lake. Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time that was there?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
2007, I believe. I believe that's right.
Water flow coming into that area, and they're up at the top of the
Yes.
screen coming down, so we got a creek coming in that's bringing
Shot
it,
Creek.
bringing in the
It
sediment.
really is. It brings in rocks as well. One of my freeholders sent a picture, and there are these stones that are, this big. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they're there.
The map tells you what year it was dredged.
Yeah. Redredged 2007. So yeah, and these are areas that there's a lot of freeholders through here. We were hoping Levi was going to be here. He's not here, but
He's working.
oh, there he is.
He's not here.
Yeah, he's working. He's not working. But,
Tina, you might mention that about the tip of Point Eidolon. That was the last thing we completed last season, and how it impacts this area, just for the record.
well, yeah, it.
Or James, or anybody can weigh
Yeah,
in.
go
on it.
ahead.
Yeah, we've got another slide that shows the other one, 130 or 120. There you go.
Yeah, right
So
there.
we basically, well, this is good. We started, I don't know how far out, but we basically reformed this access channel to the very tip. So now the barge has accessibility to go to either side of Point Eidolon to do maintenance. This channel right here, 132, is holding up pretty well. I personally think we'll be able to get almost all the way down before we hit 131 to start digging. If we do have to start digging in 132, it won't be very much, so we'll be moving real fast, especially in the big boy. So, if we're only moving a foot of sediment or so, we can probably move 80 foot of barge load, so we can kind of scoop through there pretty quick.
This is not a big dig. This is just a maintenance line. It's not going to, we don't predict that it will take a long time. Maybe, Levi even said possibly even less than 2 weeks, of getting it, if the weather was good, to get in there and just get that cleaned out. So it's not a big dig or anything like that, but it is something, it is a maintenance line that we definitely need to start thinking about. So any more questions on that? Our next service zone is 137. That's the Chitwood Channel. And that's coming in through here. The barge has dug up to that tip up there where it says 1.92, right in there.
Where it says 5 feet.
Yeah, yeah, that's where it went. This is only to be considered if we get the small barge in, and we would like to be able to, like I said, when we get it in this year, we would like to be able to save a little bit of our time to make sure that we can, utilize it through here. So,
And the
but we still have warranties.
The estimates on your sheet are to dig from here, this channel all the way back, and Walker Lane. So it does not, my estimates of the cubic yards does not include here and here.
This has never been dredged
Never,
before.
no. This is the.
Can you
This is the Walker Lane that we always talk about that is almost completely filled in. And there's another stream, and a lot of the board members have been down there. I think all the board members have been there and seen, you know, what they're up against. And this is where they have, they made a really great silt trap through there, and it's working. I mean, and they're gonna, I think this year they have a scheduled maintenance coming up. So, you know, so it'll really do make a big difference with that silt trap put in there. So that's good.
Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, could you explain the percentages on the estimates here? They add up to
Yeah, I
65%. I
pretty
don't
much went
understand
through and
how that works.
I agree.
I used these maps and the old map and a little bit of my knowledge of the lake on, you know, going into a certain area. I would measure where I think the barge needed to start roughly. I would measure the distance, how much, say we're in 3 feet of water, we're gonna remove 2 feet of sediment, you know, simple math. You know, the amount of feet you're going, the amount of feet you're going down, some feet wide, that's gonna be about the amount of yardage removed. So like 30%, that'd be, you know, say
30%
4,000 yards or so.
Of what? Of what's there, or what we're gonna dig this year?
The latter.
What we're gonna dig.
I'm confused now.
Is it 30% of what is in that district?
No, it's 30% of our
Of what we're gonna
typical
dig?
season. So we remove about 13,000 yards. So that's what that statistic is based on. We
Yeah,
remove
because your
13,000 yards.
percentages add up to 165%.
Yeah, the 165, basically, we got more work on there than we could do in the course of a year under a normal year.
Right,
Okay.
we didn't make that
And
clear.
again, this is based on these
I
channels.
just found that confusing.
These channels are approximately anywhere from 40 feet to 50 feet wide, and the small barge will only do 20 feet through there. It will not go from side to side.
Yeah.
I believe, I do know that personally that probably each one of those freeholders are on the the private dredging list to be private dredged when the season is done. So.
Are you going to have a big barge operator and a small barge operator, or are you going to have 2 sets of operators so both barges can be working?
This is something that, you know, it's all about money. So, you know, this is going to be part of our recommendation when our 5- and 10-year recommendations. You know, we've got the equipment, sure do hate to see it sit there.
Yeah, it won't happen this year.
It's not going to happen this year. We're going to have to do one or the other. So, but yes, that is something we definitely need to look, and even in the wintertime, you know, we need to really think about, let's get the most use out of our equipment that we can. That's good.
I thought when they handed out the bathymetric study, when they were talking about the Chipwood and Walker Lane channels and whatnot, they said, and I don't remember the exact figures, but it was anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000 to dig out those channels and what have you.
That was Spencer Leitner, it was his own estimate,
Yeah.
and he was assuming you dig all of those channels and everything in it. So,
And these-
they're
Oh, I
not
thought
proposing to do
the
that
sheet
right
that
now.
was I don't think I had one because he didn't have enough for everybody.
Yeah, that
I
was-
thought this was
Yeah.
whatever you
He had a
whatever
handout,
you
he handed it out.
He did, it was from him?
It
Now
was
it's
his
total.
own. It was his own numbers. You know, it was something that he put
I
together.
mean, I think his numbers are right, but they're not proposing to dredge all of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to hard pan in any of these areas. I mean, that was never, you know, we're going like we do in any other area, which is 4 to 5 feet deep. I mean, that's just what we do. You know,
I was under the impression we were going down to hard pan for, you know, in the areas that have been
His
dredged.
estimate was based, I believe, if I was reading it correctly, was based on digging everything out.
It was.
And so that's not what we do.
A lot of the areas are 5 foot below surface water is hard pan. So if you have 2 foot of water, we're digging 3 feet out and we're hitting hard pan. Here the sediment is so deep, so we're doing the barge width plus a little bit more, and then 5 feet down. So we will not be hitting hard pan there.
Okay, our next service zone is 208. This is the boating safety area. It's west of Cemetery Island. This is in District 1. We're estimating that 60% be spent in this area. I think you're all familiar with this area. This is a big safety issue.
And to clarify, that would be 60% of one budget?
Of this year.
And that was a tough estimate to make. 'Cause
Yeah.
Sure.
You're estimating a bowl and not a channel.
You got it. Yeah, we've been there twice. You know, we've dredged twice there.
so.
Will that be taken to the east end disposal site, or would it be taken to the west end disposal site?
Well, we go east end.
East end?
Weston.
Or west end, yeah,
this
excuse me.
area, Weston.
Kenny
Kenny's
Clark's
got,
house.
and
Kenny's
got
property,
him lined
yeah.
up for approval for this year?
That's good.
Yeah, I'll point out that area is affected by anybody who buys a boat sticker. I mean, it's not just a few people on the shoreline. We've really lost that part of the lake to boating. I miss it myself personally. I used to boat there all the time.
Yeah, it's.
And the buoy markers there, I mean, they tried to do a nice job, but I tell you what, they're very confusing. Being a boater that's not familiar with the lake, you used to drive right through that thing.
You get in trouble.
So are you gonna have to move the articulated dump truck then from the east down to the west? And are you gonna be able to take that down the road?
Well,
Maybe, maybe in the middle of the night.
We've done it before.
We've done it from the west.
I retract that question.
It'll get there.
This is the area that we really want Levi to weigh in on, because it's a very complex set of circumstances, and I don't clearly understand if we're approaching it the right way. We've obviously been trying, but this is a
But we all
big
know
area.
between Cemetery Island and this area, it's very shallow. You know, we've all tried to go through there, you know, with our boats and with your wave runner, and you get, it's really weedy, it's very shallow, you know, and it's
Dangerous.
It is,
Mhm.
and you know, and that's where a lot of people like to do that too, and that
Speeding
ski around,
along,
you know.
yep.
It's not a good place to drop a skier.
Nothing like standing up and you're up at waist level water and going,
What's complicated about dredging there? It's out in the middle of the lake.
hard pan.
It's hard
It's a
to
hard dig.
It's a slower dig. We can dig there. It's slower, so it won't be as efficient, but we can dig.
But
We have
how did
before.
Hardpan get there?
That's
I
a
mean,
great
it's
I think originally the point
Yeah, it was
was
there.
coming out further now. It's eroded
always
back.
been. Always
It's
been.
kind of it's been exploding.
It's a natural ridge line.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's an interesting area, and just like Pam said, you know, we're wanting
It's not
Levi to
silted,
kind of.
It's not silted, Phil?
Not as much. No, it's because as the shoreline erodes back, it's just leaving that hard pan ridge that used to come down. So it's pretty hard sediment.
So you mean the lake has gotten bigger in that area?
I guess that's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, effectively.
It's gotten big.
Erosion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then it's exposing something that we don't want to run over. I have a friend that lost a boat on it. So.
I did have one question, Tito. I know, kind of reading through the reports, and it kind of relates to this slide here. I know one of the surprising things for me was in 2003, we actually had kind of the creek bed running down through the lake there. That kind of went down through where, you know, the dam is and let it out. That has since filled in this, around this area.
It looks, yeah, according to the comparative maps, it looks like it has.
Has there been any discussion in terms of how that could impact the lake? You know, if that was a flow stream, or you know, if that's going to cause things to kind of continue to back up?
It's a good thought.
I guess I'm confused, because if you look at the map from 2006 and the map from here, the water was deeper in 2006 in exactly that area than it is today, which means it has silted in.
But it's not silt, it's like you said, it's like a ridge plan. We're not, you know, I don't know, he
That just
in
doesn't
the
make sense.
report.
I'm sure there is some silt there. It's going to
you
fall
need to get it back
out.
down to where it
Still on top
was.
of
You don't need to dig deeper.
But I know what you're asking, and he did, there is a little bit of an explanation, because this, you're talking about this fault line that
Yeah.
runs through here.
Yeah, the
And there is a difference between the 2000, the earlier map to 2015, and it does look like it has filled in a bit.
A lot.
Okay, a bit.
We lost
A bit, a lot.
Yeah, yeah, we
But, you
lost
know,
that
it has,
hillside.
and he doesn't really,
That flood.
you know, other than, you know, just coming into a ridge line, he didn't really get into why it's happening.
Well, there was, we lost part of that hillside when
We
it flooded
did,
in
you know, and now we
2000.
look at the buildings that are going up over there now, you know, you gotta think, does that have something to do with it?
When we had the map made up, is there an actual overlay at one point in time where they, one right on top of the other? The old
There
map
is,
versus
there is
the
an
new?
overlay. There were a lot of discrepancies in the two studies based on, you know, how they analyzed the data, interpolated the different transect lines. So when you put that overlay on there, it really doesn't give you a good. It's real
be pretty clear.
spotty. It should be, and that was the idea, and that's what we really wanted. But based on, you know, the different studies, and you know, that's written up in the reports on why that's the case, based on.
And Lance,
you know,
I believe that is one of the areas that there was a discrepancy.
Discrepancy,
And
okay.
and Jeff Eman didn't really have an explanation, but he felt like this map was more correct than the other map, so.
Okay, okay.
There is an overlay map. It's in, it's either in Eamon's report or Eaton's report online. So you can see it. It's red and blue.
So that's what we came up with. If you have your own, you know, of course, you can always, you know, as a board member in your district, you can always come up with your own and vote on that. That's entirely up to the districts. These are the 5 that the dredging study group thought were a good priority list to start with. That would be our recommendations to start with. Don't really have anything else.
Do we have still have capacity at the Possum Trot for a full summer
Yes.
without picking it up again and moving
Yes.
it again?
And maybe we'll have more since we're giving it away starting next week, isn't that right?
Yes, we sent in
Not to digress, but.
to the newspapers notifying people that we're going to be giving away the sediment. Currently the dates that we have are next Tuesday, Thursday, and the following Tuesday. Advertised from 9 to 3. We're going to have Levi over there doing disposal site prep anyways. So we put it in the newspapers, and we've already gotten a couple calls of people wanting to come look at dirt, including one guy who's doing some work on 45. So hopefully we want to use it for fill in the bottom and then cap it off with something else. So hopefully we can get rid of quite a bit there. We did go ahead and limit it to tri-axle trucks because that sediment is so heavy. We would prefer not to have people coming in a quarter-ton truck and we put a load in there and just shatters the axle. The sediment wet was about 3,000 pounds per cubic yard. It's dry now, but the excavator bucket is a 3-yard bucket, the big boy. So we're going to limit it to tri-axle trucks just to kind of. We have the waiver and the liability form that they'll have to sign, but it'd just be better not to have to deal with that. But so that is out there, and we will be putting it on the website advertising that too. So we'll see what the interest is, and hopefully we can start moving some sediment.
I have one question on that. From an insurance standpoint, Lance, are we covered in case there is a claim on that?
Yeah, liability is broad, so basically if you have bodily injury, property damage, you know, and they try to say it's because of our negligence, you know, yeah, our policy would react.
Okay, so even if it was like something like we actually did, like accidentally
like Levi was
take out their windshield or something, we're covered.
And that's kind of in the waiver too, you know.
Yeah,
but you know how those waivers are. If you're negligent enough, they'll waive the waiver.
Find it through, yeah, but no, we're okay.
So, you guys have the list. Like I said, you know the procedure. Usually you guys go through and you decide, you know, your ones and you're all the way down to your, whatever we have listed here. I think there are 5 sites. So we'll leave that to you. Just keeping in mind that, you know, when the smaller barge does get here, we do need to utilize that for this year, you know, to go ahead and start. So, to be able to allow the usage of that.
So it's a little bit different this year, a little bit more fluid in terms of we don't exactly know when this small barge might be here to attack the areas that it only can reach. So we may have to make some decisions and then revisit a little bit. I think that's kosher, but I would love to hear from each of you on what you think, if you would care to do so. We'll just go down the line. Marty, you have a thought?
I'm just always for balance. I just always think we need to balance access to Main Lake, and I think that this plan does that.
Thank you. Dennis?
Are we discussing priorities here?
Just discussing your input on these priorities you just presented.
I think that the first priority ought to be the Area 208, since it affects everybody on the lake. You know, it's the number of people it impacts is, I think, the important thing.
Sue?
I'm in agreement with Dennis. What affects the most people is the boating safety, as far as number 1. Now, after that, I have to leave it up to you guys. You're much more.
I don't care after that.
Yeah. What you guys think would be the best choices?
Michael?
I'm
coming into the middle.
Oh, my goodness, you caught me off guard.
Sorry.
And I'm okay, and I agree with both, that whatever is best for most of the lake. I remember one of our freeholders in our district said that, you know, don't forget that you represent the whole lake, and I'm not going to forget that. One of the concerns I do have with 208 is from Levi, and that is very hard, and it'll be difficult on our equipment. So we just need to be prepared for when that equipment breaks down, hitting that hard pan, that whatever that is. I don't even know what to call it. But I would certainly like to hear from Levi. And then whatever area would be next. And of course, once the small barge is here, I certainly would like to see it go to work in our area.
Well, I guess I would also, if I could interject, the areas that haven't been dredged should be dredged first. And there's a couple areas there that have never seen a dredging. So.
How many times has it been in this area? I can't read.
Two.
Twice.
Two.
Can you see that far, Jay?
We got glasses
Are you?
I'm finished. I'm sorry, John.
John?
It's okay. The area north of this, which is still District 1, the Spillway Road, as the crowd commented, they have been waiting a long time. It might be advantageous, all of these at the west end can use the large equipment. And at the west end, we're real close to Kenny's dump site, which is infinite in capacity.
Well, we're
so
also,
I'm kind of torn. I think we should emphasize that end, at least through the beginning of the season, when sometimes the possum trot's too wet to use. That's one more reason to stay at the
well,
west
that's,
end.
we're not filling possum trot when we're doing the west
Right.
end.
Exactly. You don't have to use it.
But at the same time, I think just as soon as the little barge can hit the water, the Chitwood people have been very, very patient. And if we follow your idea, Dennis, which I think is probably the best, is don't dig somebody out again yet that we have already dug out.
I mean, if I was one of those people, I'd get them.
Well, it's just a bad deal. But anyway, so I would emphasize the west end at the beginning of the year with the big equipment, and the east end as soon as possible. And then the Eidolon people.
They have never been up there to the John Young Road. Never. Closest I've seen the barge is when it goes in and docks over at the office.
Do you live there in that area? I've got a question. The reason I ask is because I drive, I mean, I do a perimeter of the lake, you know, and I stay just outside the 200-yard buoys, whatever. But is it really getting difficult to boat near John Young Road to get your boats into your docks and stuff
And
like
that
that?
one area over there where that creek comes in,
Yeah.
that is all filled in.
Okay.
You can, at high water, you can't even.
Can you show me the map? I'd just like to know where it is because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, you have to back it up.
It's over here.
At low water, it's about impossible to get in there.
Well, there's a lot of
At
places.
high water, you can.
Yeah.
One more.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You made a good point.
Yeah.
So that's where the creek is.
The creek comes down through here.
Okay, and that's not Icebox Cove, is it?
No,
See, I didn't even know there was a creek there.
No.
Oh, yeah.
This is the
This
next
was
cove
called
to the
Frank
northwest.
Flesher's Cove when Frank Flesher was on the board.
Ah, I remember that.
We got
Okay,
him
I
off
know
the
where
board
that's
because
at.
he could never get
So those
nothing
people
done.
have trouble getting their boats in.
You've got people that can't even get a boat in and out.
No kidding. Okay, I was totally
I
unaware
mean,
of
it
that.
is completely, well, they had to get a place down here on the, down here north of John Young Road.
Yeah, we did have, I remember.
Had to get a couple people
Yeah.
from the, have to pay to get a lot
Right,
so
get
they
a-
get their boat in and out.
Yeah,
Because they can't get into where they need to here.
gotcha.
And water's up to normal right now, and I'll guarantee you it's not over knee deep.
Is that right?
It'll be about, I'll retract that, it'll be about 5 foot deep, but you're standing in 3 foot of silt.
Yeah, right, okay. There's a lot of that too.
Lance, I don't think you've had a chance to weigh in.
No, and I think, I would kind of echo what, the other statements. Unfortunately, we only have a limited budget, to be able to do, so it does make the decisions difficult. But I think the first priority needs to be to the lake at large, because obviously boating safety and stuff is the biggest concern. And certainly the area around Cemetery Island, you have boats going in there, and you have boats going in there pretty quick. So I think that would be my priority. And then I think really, it's kind of been echoed, throughout the board, kind of prioritized based on maybe those that haven't been dredged before. And I know we have this area here that's been waiting patiently. Another, area 2, sub-area 2, 114 also I know has been patient. But look at those maybe that haven't been dredged and those that have the lowest, amount of water, and kind of go dig them out first and then kind of work our way down from there.
From these maps, on all the areas you chose, I added up the numbers, and it comes up to about 13,000 cubic yards. If those numbers on the maps are correct, which that's what we do in here, is it not?
Yeah, we've been averaging this 12, 13,000.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about, doing Cemetery Island first, you're kind of still in the off season. So, you could get that knocked out, and then when the boating traffic's kind of starting to pick up, we could work in some of these other areas.
When do we anticipate the barge being on the water and ready to roll? Just approximate, I won't hold you to it, but
Late April, May?
is it late April or mid-April?
May would be good. The barge
Is that
wasn't on the lake
dependent
until.
on, what is that dependent on, Levi's availability, or?
Well, the disposal site prep mostly.
Oh,
If
okay.
we're
Yeah.
removing a lot of dirt, we're talking, I would delay putting the barge on the water, an extra week, and we can have trucks in to remove dirt, that'd be great, so.
I do have a question. If we go and do this in first, obviously we'd be doing Kenny's property. Is that ready?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Do we have to put any gravel down on the roadway?
Well, there's, in the past, we've had requests to kind of clean the road and put gravel down. I feel like those are kind of minor management things, but
we
we'll
could hit it
we'll
running
have signs
right now.
up and all that
Okay.
stuff like we did before.
So you could hit it running pretty quick.
Getting that side of operation is.
Kenny Clark.
Kenny Clark,
He's already signed this. Yeah, he signed the agreement.
Okay.
Bruce, did you have something? Or you?
You're gonna be using 2 disposal sites, so
Right.
it seems, and what's what you're talking about, start on the west end, and when you get the new barge, move to the Possum Pond.
If everything's gonna be at Kenny Clark's area, we purchased a small dredge, or small excavator, it could possibly stay at Possum, try out the field trucks,
Yeah.
get rid of the dirt.
Definitely good.
Not necessarily a triaxle, but.
That's a good idea.
Are we selling dirt from Kenny Clark's place too, or does he want to keep the?
No.
His disappears. He uses all of it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's no amount of it at all.
Yeah, Tim.
How long are we gonna be giving away the dirt? Is there a set time, did you say? Did I miss that?
As of now, we have advertised for 3 days, from 9 to 3 each day. Depending on the interest, we can continue it out. Ultimately, we've told people in the advertisements to get a hold of us first. If somebody else came to us and they want to do a range of time, we could put Levi over there. So it's going to be relatively open-ended. We just put the advertisement out there to gauge interest, and that way people know it's available. There's not really going to be an end date, as long as people want to take the
If they're
dirt.
really desperate for dirt and want to bring their own excavator and trucks, we don't have a problem with that.
We'll sit there and watch
Insurance may have.
I got a problem.
That's a bigger waiver.
I want to weigh in on just 2 things. Number one, I think a lot of good thoughts. I have talked to James and Adam a bit, and part of why I wanted Levi here was to sort of address the big 208. I have a concern that if we start there and we break something and we don't have the little barge on the water, we're down. And I understand that's
We've
a
broke
pretty...
the barge many times and it's been repaired within a week. So you're not going to lose the barge for a summer because of anything.
You don't think
do
more
there.
than a week?
No, I mean, they broke the
History?
barge twice, digging my cove. So, and they had to replace a bearing because we didn't bother replacing a bearing when it was the time when to be replaced was, and that took a week.
It is a consideration.
The other thing, I'm supposed to remain impartial, but I have promised my district, the west side of Eidolon is indeed my district, and they have been dug once before, so they're going to question me as to how we've done this twice, and we can't get back to do maintenance on them. So I would appreciate any feedback on that, so I am armed. And fabulous.
The only question I have is there anything that could be done to prevent the sediment from coming in there?
we're working on that.
Okay.
Ron Thrasher is gonna come and meet with me and some freeholders ready to get dirty to start thinking about some things that we could maybe do without IDEM.
Yeah.
To just help a little bit that we could clean out on a they're all over it, so.
Because I think that's, it's a 2-point process, obviously, to dig it
Sure.
out, but then we've got to keep it from coming back in again from.
Absolutely. Well, and Adam, there was a feasibility study that we were waiting on and we weren't sure it was gonna be worth it.
Yeah, we're looking into a feasibility study of putting a weir in Possum Trot. We've talked to a couple different engineering companies, and the amount of money that was offered was $7,000 and change, and that didn't come close to touching what we would need to actually do the study in its entirety with environmental impact assessment. And we were looking, some of the companies I talked to were upwards of $30,000 or $40,000 total, and that's not even including any of the actual building of the weir. One of the things we have talked about is an in-lake type retention pond in that area, where what we would do is dig a big hole at the entrance, at the end of the channel, lay a riprap underneath the water before the hole to kind of create a little riffle hydraulic jump so the sediment could rain out. And if we do that, in theory, we'd be able to go out maybe at the beginning of each year or whenever we need to, and hopefully get the majority of that sediment out of that localized area. So we are looking into different options of in-lake solutions.
You'd be willing to meet with me and a few interested folks over there in April?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good.
Marty, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, a weir won't work at all. It just won't work. There's too much water coming in. They won't let you back the water up that much. And if the weir did work, the sediment would be where we can't get to it. It'd be upstream, and we'd have to hire a truck to go get it. And so the best place to get the dirt is when it comes into the lake. And I think Adam's comment about digging a big hole, as deep as our, instead of just doing normal channel at Possum Trot, dig it as deep as you possibly can. And then put some sort of a small barrier in, not that would keep a boat from going across, but sort of a lip, if you will. And then let that sediment come in, because we can get to it a lot easier on the lake than we can if we backed it up upstream. And that would cause a lot of fish and wildlife issues, because it would sedimentize the stream, mess up macroinvertebrates and things like that. But the biggest thing is there's too much water coming down. That sediment in that area is clay, and it takes 24 hours for it to settle out. Well, when you have a flood, you've got so much water, that's about 1,000 acres coming through there. And so when you got that much water coming in, you can't hold the water slow enough with a weir long enough to get it to settle out. And even if you could, you'd settle it out where you can't access it on the north side of the highway. And so I think digging a big hole, even though that sounds ultra simple, it's by far a more logical solution than a weir. I think the weir is it's just physically it's not going to work.
And that's
Part of the things that we talked about in our dredging study group was just we call silt traps, basically. Is where we just keep just going periodically places where we know it comes in pretty heavily, and then just dig a hole.
And it makes a great fishing hole too.
Yeah, and, dig it
swimming hole.
as deep and wide as we can get it, and then make sure we mark it and then go clean it out.
And we avoid permitting issues and the changing the land and implementing everything, so I think it'd be a lot easier and just a lot more financially feasible and helping more
And you got the
effective,
equipment
honestly.
to do it right now.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
All right,
Very good.
everybody's weighed in. Any further thoughts? I think at this point, we generally try to kind of rank order, but that's a little bit challenging this year. We can start the process, I guess. And we want to entertain a motion as to where those would be. Anybody want to take a crack at it?
I would make a motion that 208 and the one on the map here, what is that? That's 112 would be a good place to start for the year. And then maybe after we've got started on those, come back and look at what's left and make priority decisions at that time, for the other areas.
I do like that idea, because at that time we'll have a better idea too on what's the
You'll know when
status
the
of the
barge
other
is coming.
barges. And the nice thing about coupling those together is you're in the same area. Yeah, and so you can basically, just keep, running it through and get it done efficiently.
Yeah, and I guess 112 has never been dredged according to that So that meets the criteria that we've discussed.
111 and 112 are together. Because it's kind of a.
Well, but I was thinking about where the thing comes in. But
Some of that.
It's mostly
but if it's 111, 112, I'm okay with that.
Cabins or anything.
To start,
Yeah, to start.
I'm okay with 111, 112 to start, 208 second.
No, I wanted 208 first and 111, 112 second. And the reason is, it affects the most number of people, everybody that uses the lake, even those
Well, I
that
thought
don't
we
live
talked
on it.
about that it's been dredged twice, and 111, 112
I
hasn't been dredged
understand,
at
but
all.
again, it's the number of people that I think takes priority here, and it's a safety issue.
Okay.
Well, we also got to look at percentages, folks. If 208 is 60, are we willing to divide that? Can we move it back
You
to
can
30?
start
You
now
know what I mean?
and-
Start and
Yeah,
move
you
at
can go
30, and
back
then,
to it,
because you
yeah.
got 60 there
Yeah.
and 30, back to Bruce's point, we're going to be, if we were going to be committed to totally finishing 208, and then
And I
going
would
to the
start
other,
from the outside in
and just scooch it
and
back.
go towards
Yeah,
the shore.
I can hear
Let's get
that.
some of that lake back.
Get some, and then mark it as to where we've finished. I think we have to consider that, and then
And
reevaluate.
then you just move the buoys in as you go.
Uh-huh, that sounds
You want
reasonable.
to restate your motion?
Yeah, with that caveat?
Well, my motion was 108, or 208 and 111, 112. And I guess if you want to put some words in there about you work your way in, that's fine.
Partially dredge.
Well, I would like to see it all dredged, and if we can, we'll do it. And that's what my motion is asking for.
And then with the reevaluation, Lance? you added that?
Reevaluation, say maybe in June.
As we'll know
Yeah,
more
that'll give
about-
us a month and we'll know more in the barge.
Well, I would second that.
Well, anybody else? Good?
Well, I'll make a
Yes.
motion unless we're voting on that motion.
I didn't, well, okay, you want to make another, but before we end the
I still
discussion?
say that we go with 111 and 112 first. They've not been dredged at all. And they take the least amount of the percentages that we're talking about, then go to 208, and then go, the smaller barge ought to be in by then.
But we've already got a motion,
Okay.
and it's been seconded.
Oh, it
We
has?
have to vote on that.
Did somebody second? I didn't hear that.
I did. I seconded it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
My apologies, I didn't
That's
hear
all right. Usually my mouth carries it louder than that.
It has been moved and seconded that the dredging priorities for 2015 begin with a partial approach to 208, zone 208, and then moving on to 111/112 with a suggestion to reevaluate in June as to what our equipment status is, especially as regards the smaller barge.
Madam Chair, can we see hands on the?
We sure can. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? No. The ayes have it, the vote is unanimous. Thank you for the information, well done.
Yeah, thank you, Tina.
It's a tough problem. I lose sleep over this. I just try, I think of one thing, and Marty does too. We all do, and it's very hard to make everybody happy. All right, moving on, manager's report. You are finally up, and we crossed the first part off of your list, Mr. Casey. The bid packet is done.
All right. I think that was about the smoothest priority conversation we've had in a long time, at least from what I can remember here.
It wasn't a single area that was discussed.
What's that?
How well it worked.
What did you guys think of the projector?
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Will you sell it? Will you sell it?
No, we'll sell it. You can use it again until they get one.
All right, with the manager's report, we're gonna be opening up the lake. We're starting to charge this Saturday, the 21st. We're putting the dock in Friday, and we're hitting the ground running. We have 2 tournaments scheduled for Saturday, and we're actually booked clear throughout the season for tournaments.
Wow.
And so it's gonna be hitting the ground running. The park's been going good. We did find out there was a leak, another pipe broke in the bathhouse in the park. We were notified of that from Audrey with the Boys and Girls Club. So we're gonna be looking into there. It seems to happen every year. So we're gonna have a plumber come out and look at redoing the bathhouse with the PEX material instead of the plastic to hopefully prevent this in the future. So that's the biggest thing I see with the park right now as far as infrastructure. And but we're ready to go. Levi and Clinton have been working at the disposal site prep. We're getting the push boat ready. Have new bearings in for the drive shaft. That should be good to go. We're actually gonna put the push boat in with the excavator. They took it out last year, so we're gonna try to avoid the cost of a crane coming in. And we're actually gonna use the push boat to put our dock in place because it's incredibly heavy. And we have very strong winches on there. So we're gonna use that. Hopefully that should be in the water Thursday, or at least Friday morning, and we'll be using that to put the dock in, and we'll be charging for money, so the season is upon us. We've already covered the bid packet for excavator approval, so I'll move on to section D, which is resolution 31502. And this resolution is authorizing me throughout Bob's tenure here. There's several motions and resolutions authorizing him to sign checks for the Conservancy District, have a credit card in the Conservancy District's name to make purchases. So I combined the different ones into one resolution for myself. And the resolution is seeking to allow myself to write checks in the Conservancy District's name up to $500 from our checking account. And I took these numbers just from what Bob was authorized for in the past.
Are all these numbers the same as Bob?
Yes.
None of them are increased?
I think the checks was, I think he was only limited to 250.
Oh, yeah, the check's 250.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, it's been a long time. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, we bumped
20
up the
years,
checks.
19
from
years.
250 to
From
500.
250 to 5. So the first part of the motion is seeking approval for myself to write checks in the Conservancy's name up to $500. Furthermore, we're authorizing myself to issue and sign claim forms. If it's going to be a claim form above $2,000, will require approval from a board officer, unless this is a claim from the past. If we already have a contract in place with somebody and the payment's going to be over $2,000 that's been approved, I'll still have authorization to just go ahead and pay that. But anything else that has been prior approved above $2,000 will have to get approval from one of the board officers. And then lastly, I have to get a motion to get a Visa charge card in my name with the Conservancy District. Right now, Bob Madden's name is on it. And I'm afraid I'm gonna go out to buy something. They're gonna check the ID and won't let me. I've gotten a hold of the credit card companies and they actually need to see a copy of the resolution from the board to issue a credit card in my name. So the credit card to be issued would be up to a $10,000 credit line with a stipulation that purchases over $1,000 be approved by the board treasurer or in his absence, another member of the board. So I will be seeking a motion to pass this resolution.
I so move.
And you will be the only one that has these two things, these two capabilities now.
Yes.
Lance, you also are authorized, correct, on both counts as the treasurer?
As the treasurer, yes.
But those would be the only two people at this point who are
Yeah.
authorized?
And Shirley.
Yeah,
Shirley
Shirley.
Watson.
And the accountant, okay, okay.
Did we,
We have a,
We have a motion on the
did we
table?
have Bob at $1,000?
Pardon me?
Did we have Bob at $1,000?
I think we
Yes,
did.
that was the
Other
same
one
at
was-
1,000.
I think so. So the motion is on the table to authorize the resolution for Adam Casey regarding the credit card and the checking account limitations.
it needs to be seconded also.
Right? You'll second it? I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
The only thing I would say is, since it's been kind of hitting the paper lately,
Yes.
that, there is a system of checks and balances in place when it comes to the checking account. Basically, the accountant basically goes through, reviews all the checks and such, and then puts them into our system. So she obviously, has, a set of eyes on them. And then obviously all the claim forms, as we know, does come back to the board as well. So unlike our county and city government, I don't think we have an open checkbook in place, so.
Well, and board members are supposed to review all this stuff, and at least one of them does regularly.
Absolutely.
I think we all do.
Madam Chairman, I have a point of order
Yes.
question, and I'm not sure the answer to this. When we do a resolution that needs to be signed, I'm not sure if we voted also.
We used to.
And it seems like, and if that's the case, that's fine. It just seems like we're signing something to say yay or nay, and then we're going to also verbally vote for it. Which one carries the day?
We've been doing it both ways,
Yeah.
a verbal
Well,
motion.
something
and signing.
maybe to look at in the
That's-
future because it
Okay.
seems redundant.
Seems kind of redundant.
It is.
And what if I signed one way and voted another, just to be cute?
Well, then you'd be cantankerous.
Yeah. Well, just something that maybe a point of order to consider.
Consider, shall we go both ways for now, just to
Yes.
cover all of our bases? And Marty, do not sign one way and vote another. Or
I won't. I'm not your first meeting.
That would be a dilatory tactic, I think. Okay, so the move and the second are on the table. May I have a vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Don't go shopping for your girlfriend.
Don't go to Walmart.
Don't look for the new hot tub purchase.
Yeah, we do watch, we do watch. Okay.
All right, moving on. Part C, the professional services agreement from Lee Keen. Lee Keen we've been using since back when I was a biologist. He's a diesel mechanic and heavy equipment mechanic. He's been real good to us. He's real responsive. So we just want to renew his professional services contract so we have a mechanic that we can call when stuff breaks down, because it always does. We need a good mind and a good set of eyes. So since this is not being signed by everybody, I will seek a motion to approve this professional services agreement with Lee Keen.
So moved.
Seconded.
I thought we were going to bundle these. Okay.
Well, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
I'm glad to.
I'm sorry, you got ahead of me a little bit. Can we put together, can we have you run into the next professional services agreement with
You
Phil
vote.
Wallace? Can we do
All
that
right.
legally?
Yeah, absolutely.
The stone hauling as well?
We can have that.
That's new, right. So the two that are labeled both C, but they would actually be, well, I guess now C1 and C2. Can you go over
We
Ken?
lumped them together on the
Go
agenda.
ahead with Ken Mullis, and then we'll do them together.
Kenny Mullis we utilize for debris removal on the east end where it all piles up. Typically, we only have him out for, what's it been in the past, just a day?
Yeah, it's a day job.
Just
Half
for a
day's
day
job.
to remove the debris over near Hobson's house, and just to help get it out. We've used him in the past. Both of the prices have remained the same between Lee Keen and Kenny Mullis. No rates have increased, and they've both been good to work with in the past. So I would like to renew these professional service agreements
So moved.
for Lee Keen and Kenny Mullis.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve both of these professional services agreements. Take a vote unless there's discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it.
I will have to get your signature on some stuff after the meeting, Pam.
Sure.
All right, part D, the stone hauling agreement. We have sent out bids for the stone that we utilize to 3 different companies, Young Trucking, A Plus Performance, and Naylor Trucking. The majority of the stone that we use is the Gavian Riprap. Naylor Trucking came back with the cheapest price, $16.65 per ton.
Who did?
Naylor Trucking. And since they're the cheapest price, and that's the majority that we use, for all the other different size stones, they're within $1 or $2. Not much
What do we use
difference.
those other stones for?
Mostly for when we did the road, so we used the big rock initially when we did the road coming into the disposal site.
Okay.
And for maintenance of some of the smaller pathways that we have over there. But the majority is the riprap. So we would, I recommend to the board that we go with Naylor Trucking for the stone hauling agreement, as is the cheapest price for what we use the majority of.
Just a point of information, I do business with Naylor Trucking for another organization that I'm in, so I'm gonna have to abstain from the vote, but
Okay.
point that out.
So noting that, I would like to seek a motion to approve a stone hauling agreement with Naylor Trucking for the 2015 season.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? The ayes have it. Motion carries.Moving right along. It's still you.
All right.
It's still you.
We have the LLCD office repairs.
Burning.
The office is in quite a state
Brace
of
yourselves.
disrepair currently
Brace
and is in need of some major updates. We have solicited quotes from different companies. We've received 2 quotes back for the renovation process. We did have a former board member, Tim Speck, help write up specifications of the scope of work to help us bid out the process. That includes things like painting the entire area, replacing the carpeting and padding, essentially the flooring through the whole area. There's quite a few soft spots on the subflooring that will have to be replaced. Getting ready to fall through. We're gonna redo the bathroom, tub and shower need replaced, they're leaking, and I think they're beyond cleaning. Then the faucets are leaking in the bathtub and the kitchen, so we're looking to replace the faucets, the stove, and then just cleaning the windows and cabinets. And then finally, we have an outside water spigot that's leaking, so we want to get a frost-proof water spigot put on there.
Well, it sounds like a dump.
It is a dump, but it's a nice area. It's a beautiful office. You get to turn around and look at the water.
Well, isn't that just a double wide?
It's a modular home.
Yeah. What would a new one run?
I was looking around, and I was thinking 50 to 60,000 for a new one.
So we think it's, okay. You have some pictures, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
I think you should show those.
You're like,
You need to see these, if you haven't been over in a while.
So the two quotes that came back are about $3,000 in difference. One came back at $12,190 from BK Construction, and that entails the entire scope of work that Tim Speck wrote up. The second quote that came in was from Waltman Construction for $15,200, and that includes the majority of the scope of work, but does not include the flooring or the stove. So that would be additional costs that would come back on us.
No stove, no flooring, but it's $3,000 more.
And it's $3,000 more.
Adam,
Gail.
did,
Oh, sorry.
did Tim set it up for an ADA compliance, the bathroom?
I don't think so, but it's
Probably not.
the back we had never used as a public restroom.
It's not a public
I think that's a private residence. We never allowed people to use that, so I don't think it would have to be. I could
Okay.
ask him though.
Just wanted to ask.
Gail?
I just want to say, as a landlord who's been remodeling houses for 35 years, I have gotten rid of every ounce of carpeting. Carpeting is a terrible thing. It off-gasses dangerous fumes that are going to make Adam sick. And so laminate, there's really inexpensive laminate, as long as you don't go with the laminate flooring warehouse, which they've now found. But there's a lot of them, and I've just been amazed at how my laminates have held up. The last laminate I got was for a 25 by 25 foot room at the Restore. It would have been like $2,000. I got it for $50 at the Restore.
That was one thing we were looking at too, is doing carpet in the back half in the living area, and then laminate in the front half where we have high traffic.
I
and
say
just
no
putting down some
carpet.
area
I say no
rugs.
carpet. Also, I wouldn't mind keeping, if you gave me the measurements, I wouldn't mind keeping a lookout at the Restore. I got this incredible laminate. You can take
Laminate's tough.
you can take, hammers and scratch, and you can't get a scratch in it. It holds up so well. But it's just not good it's not good in any room. It has to be replaced, whereas the laminate would probably never have to be replaced.
Thanks, Gail.
This is this is the bedroom in the house.
Come to
There's
order.
this is the bathroom in the house.
Folks,
And then, I know, I should have put out a warning before this.
yeah.
And then here's the flooring. This is the entrance from the bedroom into the bathroom. And my foot is completely below the floor, and if you step there, it's about to fall right through. So the repairs need to happen. It has to happen.
where are you living?
So currently, I'm just kind of jumping around. I got my stuff in a storage unit and just kind of
Living in it?
Yeah, almost.
How long would it take?
Just kind of
to do
shifting
another
around.
How long would it take to do all those repairs?
Most of them started probably about 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Figure three.
I believe that when I see it.
Barb?
Yeah, it could take longer, but essentially I would like to get it started as soon as possible before we're in the height of the season and to save me some money on storage.
Barb, you had a comment?
Contractors and.
When it comes to rehabbing or whatever you want to call it, plumbing, especially, the bathroom needs some pretty expensive plumbing. The quotes that you have, does that include any unforeseen things they might run into?
One of them did. Waltman's had a $2,000 buffer,
Possible
I
extra.
believe.
Yeah, Waltman's has a possible estimated extra $2,000. So I'd bring his down to 13 too, but that does not include any of the flooring.
I don't think that
kitchen.
2,000 is included in the 15.
No.
It's after the total.
So he's up to 17.
Yeah.
I mean, once we tear up the floor, it could be,
I don't know.
I mean, who knows, hopefully it's just those 2 areas that have to be replaced on the subflooring. But, there's a couple places where you're about to fall through the floor there.
And as far as laminate, there's nothing wrong with it except that if you're gonna be living there and what have you, you know, especially when you said the back half and, it was mentioned that you should do it all. The floor gets very, very cold. You know, it's not like living in a house. I mean, because of the space or airspace that's underneath. That's the only other thing. Just thought I'd.
You know, I'm kind of curious, how did that place get that bad a damn shape?
Well, I just don't think there was any
No one's paying
regular
Maintenance for
maintenance
20
or
years.
upkeep for
Yeah.
a while.
I wouldn't.
At all.
None, zip.
It just never
Did
was.
they check for asbestos in that building for you?
No.
You need to check, make sure they check for asbestos.
Yeah, because you
Because that's
want to
gonna
open
drive,
that up.
they'll
yes.
drive your costs sky high.
Check
And it
for
would
what?
cost less to get a new one.
Asbestos. I'd be surprised if there's any in there. Yeah.
Ceiling tiles,
That's
floor
what I'm saying,
tiles.
is how old.
Yeah, there's no ceiling tiles or floor tiles, so.
Okay, so that's an FYI, buddy.
Alright.
It's the face of the LLCD, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And we really, I mean, we really need to have a little PR here.
I agree.
Well, you know, ultimately, I think it would be ideal to separate the office from the living quarters.
Yeah.
Bob never really liked having his, you know, his living room be the office. And
Yeah.
I think ultimately the solution, once we capitalize ourselves a little better, is to maybe think about separating them.
I agree.
This is pretty minimal maintenance. I mean, this is just getting it
This is
habitable.
scratching the surface barely.
Yeah.
We really ought to, when we think about authorizing this, we might want to provide some contingency, so if they do run into something, we don't have to wait for a board meeting.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
You
I don't know if you
tear
guys
into
want to give us a
spongy
cap
floor
or
like that.
approval from, you know, one of the board officers. or-
Yeah.
I would probably propose 15 now.
It's always worse than you think.
Yeah, a couple of things, I would agree. You're not going to know what you're going to get into, so we got to give it some fluff. And so my initial reaction there is maybe 15 if we go with the low bidder. That gives you a few $1,000s to work with. The only other thing, and this is from the treasurer side, and I'm definitely for getting this done, but we just have to keep in mind we don't have a budget for it. So we'll have to move money around from somewhere else initially or make an additional appropriation at
Does
the end
this
of the year.
qualify for a cumulative maintenance fund?
We could.
I guess it could.
I mean, we could do a even better renovation if we do that, if we use that money. I mean,
Well,
that's what this kind of
we can
money's
always use
for.
that money later in the year to reimburse us. Maybe we pay for it now and kind of see how the budget goes.
No, I understand that, but I mean, it's just one possibility where we could get funds to do,
Right.
even if there's, they find some major problem.
Yeah, I think the money is not going to be an issue. It's just from a budget standpoint, we didn't budget for it, so we may have to do an additional appropriation at the end of the year, just the technicality of it all.
Sell Bob's new truck and we'll fix the house.
But now it's Adam's truck.
Then Adam has no place to live.
Okay. Yeah, Lance, are you prepared to, I think we're all in agreement that this needs to
Well, I
happen. It's just
think
a matter
it's-
of how much and how fast.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that we basically, and move that we do accept the bid from BK Construction being the low bidder, and then allow for an extra contingency up to $15,000 for any unforeseen.
From 12,
From 12
190
to
to
15.
15.
So a total project cost of $15,000.
You gonna make that a motion?
He's making that a motion.
Okay.
And that will
Hold on, we've had our
go
discussion.
along with the agreement, correct? Because we have a blank contractor agreement, so that, you guys, basically, that agreement, now BKD's quote is kind of Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be approval of the agreement as well.
Right,
So
yeah.
technicalities, but
Yeah.
so that it's worded right.
That's exhibit A. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept this BK Construction quote for office repairs to the LLCD with a cap at 15K should there be unexpected issues. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any noes? The ayes have it. Woo-hoo. You didn't even have to do that. All right.
So what are you going to do with the couch? That's all I have.
Master space next week.
Okay.
That's where it's going.
All right. Next, we have item F on the manager's report. Daniel Arnold would like to request that the Conservancy District provide him with a list of all the freeholders in the district. We have some historical motions here by man that requires public requests or personal information regarding freeholders to be presented in writing to the board for approval on a case-by-case basis. He has provided writing requesting the information. He's on the North Shore and at 4800 Possum Trot Road.
It's the northwest corner of Possum Trot and North Shore.
He's the guy that asked for annexation at the last meeting.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Isn't he Danny, it's Danny Arnold?
Yeah.
He like grew up at the lake his whole life.
Yeah, he was.
Over on South Shore.
South Shore, and he still had property.
His dad's on South Shore.
Vince, you had a comment?
That's been brought up before, and it's been voted down, because then they even give them access on the website to all the freeholders, because then you got, you know, constant contractors calling you up wanting seawalls, docks, what have you. Anybody trying to sell anything boating related, there's just going to be
Calling, come around asking to buy your house.
Yeah, the same with the real estate too. So it's been voted on before and it's been voted down.
Are you talking about voting on someone being annexed or someone being given the information?
Somebody giving the information.
Okay, because that's all we're talking about here,
Yes.
just to be clear. But that is, I think, Dennis is right. He remembers that he was at a meeting.
If you give him the information, then you'd have to give it to almost anybody who's a freeholder requesting, correct?
Well, it's a case-by-case basis. It would always be a board decision to answer your, it would have to come just like this. So no, it wouldn't just start happening willy-nilly, which is the point of it.
But
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
you be setting a precedent?
Very possibly.
Is it possible to give them names and addresses but not emails? It seems like the emails is really the protected item here, because once the
You can
email
go to
gets
Google,
in.
get on the satellite and call the lake, and it'll tell you who lives in every little house around the lake.
And ultimately, you can call the county auditors and get this information from them.
No, but I mean, I don't see a real harm in somebody having my address. I don't particularly want them to have my email.
Well, I'm just wondering why he wants it to
Yeah.
begin with.
He wants to contact
Well,
everyone.
there is actually a formal procedure that you could go through if you want to be annexed.
Yeah, I think
Governmental
it's
vicinity,
the
so
first
he's
step of this
basically has to
process.
do a petition.
Oh.
So he needs this in order for him to be
Yeah,
annexed?
yeah. He needs it to basically get the names, because he has to get so many people to sign off to get a petition, and then if he gets, you know, enough names, he could bring it before the board, and then the board votes on that petition to annex them, and we could vote it up or down.
Okay.
If we don't vote it down, then there's another whole procedure they could go through to try to get annexed by the lake. But
Okay.
it is a formal procedure.
So that, we want to know why. we
Yeah,
want to-
yeah, yeah.
Well, and I believe that the email,
Freeholders?
The first time, no.
no, just his district. That's my
Just this-
district.
The first time, it'd be just a sub area. If it is voted down, then there's kind of a rule that, I forget the percentage, but he has to go to the whole lake at that time to get a certain percentage to approve him then.
Vince.
Could there be something put into where, for like his personal use only?
We could specify the use of
Something to that
it.
effect.
Yeah.
Well, and he wouldn't, effectively, he wouldn't need the emails because he's
Well,
gonna
yeah.
have to be kind of going door to door if that's what, he's gonna have something he has to have signed. And I believe he would have to do that in person. So the email piece could be left out.
I mean, I
That's
think that's what
concerning.
would probably
Don't we have a
trigger
precedent
upset.
of denying this? This has
I
come up
don't know.
before, and
So he's a
we
conservative.
did not do it.
That's
We
correct.
do have.
Do you remember?
That was for
what-
company.
I
does
don't
anybody
remember the details.
Before
There
my time.
was, someone wanted annexation on South Shore Drive. And then there was another issue when I was on board, someone wanted addresses for, I'm not sure.
All of those commercial denied.
And both
Yep.
of them were denied. So
Well, this,
we have a
we're only in the
precedent.
first part here, and that is just, he just wants the info, and that's what we're deciding on. We're
Well,
not,
that's been denied. in the
I
past.
understand, but I just want to be clear that that's
Yeah,
all we're
that's the
talking about.
first step he had.
He's gonna have a lot of hoops that
I'm
he
just
would need to
mentioning
jump
the
through.
precedent.
Sure.
And all of this information is available. Monroe County or Brown County Auditor, anybody can go in and get the Lake Lemon list. It's public information, so, and he's aware of that. I think he kind of wants,
Wants to make it
you know,
easy.
my category of District 6, where I've got everybody's name all nice and neat, and so I don't think he'd probably like your emails and phone numbers, but, you know, ultimately you could just give him District 6 names and addresses. That's- You know, if you're gonna do that, I would probably just recommend that.
Okay, well, yes, Barbara.
I do hope the board will go back and look at two previous requests for annexations. There is a record and there is a precedent.
That being said, is there any more question, discussion? Yes, Gail?
Yeah, I was told in the beginning, there were a couple people that were on the borderline. I know one particular family on Rust Road, and everybody next to them is in the lake, but they opted not to. And I asked Bob about it, and he said legally in the Conservancy they can never apply to be back in, but now it sounds like they legally can't, in Conservancy rules.
Yeah, the state regulations, and of course, I'm not an attorney, but there is ways that if you want to be, annexed by a governmental entity, that you could apply toward that. And all he's doing right now is taking that first step, because he has to go to his particular district and get so many signatures to be able to get in, and he's just trying to get a list of the names so that he can do that.
And he's not, I wasn't here I couldn't come last meeting, I was away. So he's like across North Shore Drive?
Yeah, it's just right across the street from it, yeah.
Are there other people across North Shore Drive?
No,
not
really.
So would it open up for all those people to want to come in the lake, and then they'd have to have forced access?
Yes, potentially, yeah.
But you also have people on the south side of South Shore that are, you could start to go back.
I know, we're already in, they do the railroad tracks on our side.
You might check as who drew the boundaries of the Conservancy. It was not the original board or any of the original members going
I've always
down.
wondered that myself, but
You just might check that out. I think it was the
Pam, I wasn't saying it was a bad thing.
No, it's okay.
I can see some advantage to letting more people in the lake. It's more tax.
It's a whole other thing.
The only question I have is, this is getting into legal, and is this something that we should run by Angela Parker?
Yeah.
Ultimately, anything that we store on our databases is public information.
So, even, do we have the option of denying it?
Yeah, we have the option of denying the listserv our information.
Okay.
Our personal database is subject to you guys giving us approval to give it out. Your auditor's report is what's public knowledge. That's basically just your address, property address, and your permanent address.
Do we have enough information to call for the question? Are we prepared to vote on his request? Or do we need more?
Do we want to wait for a ruling by Angela?
And she's kind of written up a report on the annexation, and it basically just details, the process behind it. I don't know how much value she's going to add.
Well, I think it's just a matter of open record laws. That's my only concern. If we don't have a choice by law, because of being a public entity, and I'm not sure.
I don't know.
And it may be good to know that.
We could contact Angela if we want to table this till later on.
You can postpone it to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think we need to have what goes on. Yeah.
All right.
Do I need to vote on that?
No, just table.
Postpone it to the next, it's actually postponed, I think, so we can bring it up again.
All right, so this will be tabled. Next up, we have the EPLI, the survey coming up, the public survey. We've been working with Kate Wiltz with the EPLI Institute at IU, coming up with a public opinion poll survey. We currently been going through who it's going to be mailed to. It was a little confusing for them and us to weed out the different people, since some people have 4 to 5 different parcels per names, and they're listed there individually. So we started to get that weeded down, just so each individual, no matter how many parcels they're going to get, will just receive one letter asking them to take the survey. I provided her with our letterhead and a few pictures, so they're going through the design right now of the cards that'll be sent out in the survey design. Before March 20th, we should have a pilot test and a beta version of the survey. Once we have this, I'll be sharing that with the committee so we can go over it and make sure it's addressing the issues we want, like the questions that are on there, and we feel like we'll get the information that we're looking for. So once I have that, we'll go through the committee, the public survey committee, see what they think about it, and then move forward. Ultimately, we would like to have the mailings out on April the 3rd, and then reminders going out on April 13th, mailings going out on March 30th, and then reminders going out on April 13th and April 22nd. And we're on schedule right now. Ultimately, we would like to have the data available for the June board meeting, the June 30th board meeting. Kate will be here from the Epley Institute at Riddle Point Park, and they'll give a report on our findings. So that's where we're sitting on that. We're moving forward. She likes to do everything through email and this nice little database they have, so there really hasn't been too many meetings, and there hasn't been any since the first committee meeting that I attended. But we'll have the committee's input once we have the survey formed. So that's where we're at with that. We're moving forward, and it's going good, and Kate's been very responsive, and it's been nice working with the Epley Institute.
Can I ask a question on that? Have the questions for the questionnaire been formed?
No, that's what, as they're making that now, that's what they're designing the questions. So once we get the beta test, then we'll see the questions that they have selected. In the meeting, we did go through what information we're looking for, what we think the high points are, where contentious points are between different viewpoints around the board. And so they just need to come back with a draft, and they're going to propose the questions to get the answers that we're looking for.
And there was representatives from all 7 districts, correct?
No. Dennis has resigned.
No,
Okay, there's a new one, Les is now.
Wadzinski is
Yeah.
taking my place.
Okay.
Apparently,
And
my guy did not show.
Yeah,
and I
Tom
can't-
did not come.
I
either.
can't, okay, and are we, so we're done with that, there's no, I mean, I could sit in now that another board member has backed away,
Yeah,
but-
why don't you just
so
do
I
that?
better do that, because I can't get hold of him.
I just saw him on the way over here.
Yeah, he's not returning my emails, I don't know what I did. Anyway, okay, so will you keep me, I'll be the new contact for District 6 instead of Stevens.
All right.
Okay, perfect.
So
Thanks.
that's where we are with that. We do have updated email addresses at Lake Lemon. LLCD Madden has been used for a long time. It's also integrated with Bob's personal emails. So we have moved away from AOL, and we're going to be using it on our own server. We handed out a sheet here, and also the new contact information will be online. The new office and manager emails will be manager@lakelemon.org and office@lakelemon.org. We've also set up different email addresses on our servers for your area directors. So depending on if they want to utilize those or not, it'll be a decision for them. If they want to use a personal email or if they want to use our emails, that'll be up to them, and we'll let you know. But the email addresses are changing. And,
If any of us is going to run for president, we might want to make sure.
Check with Hillary first.
Check with Hillary. Yeah, that is not true.
I'm happy to be rid of AOL.
All right. Very good.
Finally, for the manager's report, we have our required, the conflict of interest policy form that has to be signed by all members of the board. So I have our conflict of interest policy here. It's a statute, everybody has to sign it. I will go ahead and pass this down, and if you would be so inclined to sign off on the conflict of interest form, it'd be greatly appreciated. And that concludes my manager's report. Happy to be down here. It's been going relatively smooth. It's finally feeling like mine and Jane's operation since Bob's actually out of the office now. And we're hitting the ground running, but it seems to be going real nice, and I've had good feedback, and I felt very welcome to people coming by the office and by the park. So happy to be here, and look forward to many more board meetings to come with everybody.
I think while we're signing this, we can open this to public comment as the hour is getting a little later, but we've done pretty well. So if there's something that is on your mind, please stand and be recognized. Okay, good. Then I would, motion, thank you.
I do have one thing.
Okay.
Yeah, an item I discussed with you.
Oh, yes.
With Rebecca.
Yep.
I have a freeholder in our area that put a dock in, and I discussed with the chair about they don't have lake access. They can't go out on the lake, so she's going to address that with staff about that. So we did address that with the chair. Okay.
Oh, incidentally, Aggie Bachman called, her dock has left her property. She's on the west side of,
How does it leave your
Is it a
property?
float?
yeah, it's blue if you see it.
guess it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, I
It's
see.
on its way. We'll just-
You'll find it
Okay,
at the
Mike,
bottom of this bill.
so that covers
We're
your.
gonna try to get an answer for her at the next meeting.
Sure, okay.
Okay.
That brings us to the next meeting is April it's tax day, the 15th. It will be here. As always, contact your reps if you have something you want to talk about, and we'll.
Sorry, John. I didn't mean to-
So we already have a motion to adjourn and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Thank you for coming. Have a good one.